Well, hi there. Warm welcome. You're watching Blueprint Explosive Exclusive, and I'm Mghna Deka. Well, viewers, we ask you, who decides what's funny and what's vulgar? Who decides what is obscenity? The creator, or should it be the audience who decides? And how far is too far for you to go viral? Well, these are some of the questions that we are going to try and answer over the course of this edition of Blueprint Explosive Exclusive. Now, there is something very dirty in his mind. This is what the apex court of the country had said about the incestuous question Ranveer Allahbadia had asked a contestant in the comedy Samay Raina's show, which is India's Got Latent. The Supreme Court today was hearing Ranveer Allahbadia's plea to club the FIRs against him and seek anticipatory bail against his possible arrest by the Guwahati police. So it's important for us to understand what exactly it is that the Supreme Court had said. But before that, BeerBiceps founder was literally labeled as being a pervert by the top court of the country. So the Supreme Court today made it very clear that this was not funny at all. But there is a section of society that feels that since Ranveer has now apologized, he should not be targeted. So is he being targeted? Well, those are the questions. I leave that question to you. But there are complaints against him under section 296 of the BNS of 2023, which details the obscene acts. So what really is obscenity? It's important for us to understand that. When you say a person's rather being obscene or not being obscene, what is obscenity as per law? That is going to be critical to this entire conversation. Now, obscenity as per the BNS includes obscene acts in public, obscene singing, reciting, obscene words in public, which offend public morality or decency. This is what obscenity here really has been included as per the law. So the punishment of this can be 3 months of jail, it can be fine, or both. So that brings me to the question, who decides what is obscenity? Well, there is no clear-cut definition for obscenity. Obscenity law often weighs the context of what really had happened. Judges look at the context, and for this, I'm going to take you back to 1994. Remember the film by Shekhar Kapoor, Bandit Queen? Well, it was, remember, at the time mired in several controversies, but it had also premiered at the Cannes Film Festival in May 1994 to wide critical acclaim as well. But the censor board here had recommended more than 100 cuts to the film Bandit Queen. It was, in fact, even challenged in the courts. You remember the film? But the Supreme Court took a very liberal view in all of this. The rape scene in the film was not marked as obscene. The Supreme Court, in fact, gave very critical observations that it was integral to the narrative. In fact, it had said, and I'm going to quote the Supreme Court here, it says that the Bandit Queen tells a very powerful human story. And the scene of Pulan Devi's enforced naked portrayal is central to the entire theme, central to the entire film. In fact, the Supreme Court even cautioned against a blanket standard. That's why we want to ask who really decides what really should be obscene. In fact, let me go across to our panelists. Today, we are going to be joined on our show, Abha Singh, lawyer and activist. Also, Vishal Khalra is joining us, an advocate with the Supreme Court. I'm going to come to you, Abha Singh. As we have seen, even the Supreme Court in many contexts has said that we must see what really is obscenity, what is the context, the larger context. And here's the problem. There are those who fear that if it is the police who are deciding what is obscene, they may be persecuted. It may become a tool for targeting. How do we draw that Lakshman Rekha between what's obscene, what's vulgar, and what's funny, many would say? Abha Singh?
You know, the law is very clear on obscenity. If I go by the section 67 of the IT Act, it very clearly says something which depraves the mind of the vulnerable if it's transmitted and which is sexually explicit, that is obscene. But if I come to the BNS, as you were also showing, 296 of the BNS talks of obscenity and something which depraves the mind, something which is perverse, something which, in fact, would be prurient, lascivious. Because, in fact, when I was doing the AIB roast, in fact, AIB roast was one case which also had FIRs on all the people who were there, including Deepika Padukone, and they had to move the High Court to get a protection like Ranveer Allahbadia. So the law is, there's a thin line.
Oh, well, there seems to be a bit of a problem there. We are going to try and get that fixed. In fact, let me come across to you, Vishal Kalra. In fact, one of the things that the Supreme Court had said, that such language is not just unacceptable. If this isn't obscene, then what is? This is total lack of responsibility, total violation of the rules of morality, calling BeerBiceps, as he goes as being a pervert. Vishal Kalra, many have said, many celebrities have also come out in endorsement of BeerBiceps, of Ranveer. However, how do we make sure that we are on the right side of the law? Where do we draw the line is something that still seems to be a bit ambiguous.
Right. First of all, good evening and thank you so much for having me here. Let me tell you, first of all, that I am also disgusted with the choice of words which were used. And here I'm not going to defend the choice of words which were used and which is available on the internet.
Right.
But the question here is that the fact that the family of the accused are receiving threats to life, people portraying themselves as patients and entering into the clinic of the mother of the accused, that is not apt, I think.
Absolutely.
I think here we can say that the law is not on the right side. See, if a person commits a crime,
okay,
or alleged to commit a crime, the law is already set into motion right now. The FIRs are registered. And once the FIR is registered, the accused has the right to approach the Honorable Court to seek the relief. Similarly, in this present case, the alleged accused, Mr. Ranveer Allahbadia, has approached the Honorable Court and he has sought anticipatory bail, and the Supreme Court has enlarged him on anticipatory bail today.
Right. In fact, the Supreme Court, the Honorable Supreme Court, as you would know very well, has also said if you feel that you're being threatened, you can seek protection. That too will be granted by the police.
It is already there. It is also a kind of a relief that if you are feeling any threats, if you're receiving any threats, you can approach the local police station.
Absolutely.
Like he has mentioned on his social media that he has received life-endangering threats. And some unknown person has entered into his mother's clinic.
Yes.
Suppose if A commits a crime, can you punish or can the society punish the parents of A?
Absolutely not.
This is not what has happened, and this is not what generally doesn't happen in a routine manner.
Okay. That there is targeting. You feel that they are being targeted.
Yes. They are being targeted, and this is not the first time. And this is not the last time that we are going to see all these things on the internet. Even the Supreme Court has said that we need more laws which can regulate such kind of content and videos on the internet. Because there is none as of now.
Okay, that's interesting. Let me take that point across to Abha Singh. Are we short of watertight laws when it comes to the BNS, when it comes specifically to online content? Because, of course, the standards there are very different. Or do you think laws are sufficient? We only need to implement it.
See, of course, where social media is concerned, the laws are absolutely not perfect in the sense, see, for the movies and all, you have a censor board. Anything which is obscene, it is the censor which looks into. But social media, there is no regulation. For YouTube particularly, there is no regulation. And I think after Supreme Court's strong observations that you have vomited out your dirty mind, and parents will be ashamed of you, sisters will be ashamed of you. And also Supreme Court has asked him to surrender his passport, which itself is a big victory. That Supreme Court is not taking it lightly, even though it has given him protection from coercive action, but he's been asked to surrender his passport and go to the police authorities, cooperate with the investigation. So this shows that obscenity is something which is going to be taken seriously from now on. And in the name of comedy and satire, it will not be passed. And laws are there. But yes, the definition of obscenity, what is obscenity, what is not obscenity? Because 294 says something which annoys you. So annoying can be anything. So I think the obscenity definition should be made more specific. But if you see 294, as you said, is a bailable offense. But when it comes into the social media, 67 of the IT Act, it for first punishment is 3 years with a 5 lakh fine. And if it is a subsequent as punishment, it is 5 years with 10 lakhs fine. So
Right.
in the IT Act, in the social media, if you have spoken something obscene and it is in the public space, then it is going to be taken seriously, much more than it was in the IPC and now in the BNS.
Oh, that's very interesting. So under the IT Act, it is going to be much sterner. But then, Vishal Kalra, here's the problem. Many are saying that this is impinging on free speech. There is also something called free speech. There is something called satire. There is something called humor. Many fear that comedians specifically, and this has happened in the past as well, Vishal Kalra, comedians specifically get targeted by the state, by any political satire can just land you behind jail, and that has happened in the past as well. So who's protecting them? Where are the checks and balances?
See, I would like to answer this question in a very beautiful manner by saying that not all satires are to comfort anyone. Secondly, that's the difficulty that the expression should not be limited in the garb of obscenity. Here, what we are seeing, that there's a difference in the story as to what has happened in the past and what is happening in the present situation. So this YouTuber, particularly if we are talking about this YouTuber, he has got a different channel.
Right.
It is not the case where this video was available to all. This is not the case. We are not dealing with the case where this video or the content which was available to all on a particular television. They have a separate channel. There was a separate space for showcasing that content, and there was a separate audience for the same show. It is not something that he has come in public space and stated such things. Right now, even...
But that content went across to millions of people.
Yes, that let me tell you how it has happened. See, even in a routine manner, we see A-grade movies and which are available on Netflix, as well as we also are a part of a cinema which are also showing A-grade movies. Suppose if somebody, while watching a movie, record a short clip which is being showcased in a theater and put it on a social media, can you held these people? Can you held the artist who has already taken a license to showcase that movie and that content in the cinemas? So are we not being a part of it?
That's interesting. In fact, on our screens, even as we speak to you, on our screens, we have the exact reach of the viral video as it had gone viral. This is the show for India's Got Lated. It has about 59.92 million viewers that it would have reached to, because you have Ranveer Allahbadia's followers, you have BeerBiceps channel, you of course have the channels of Samay Raina and several others, so on and so forth. Roughly, it comes to Abha Singh, close to 50 billion people. Some of them may be sitting over a dinner table watching it with their families, daughters, mothers, sisters, wives, brothers. Where does responsibility start? I can say I have free speech, but I am going to be accountable for what I say on air, Abha Singh.
You know, in fact, when the Constitution gives you freedom of speech and expression, that is 19(1)(a) of the Article 19(1)(a), but then 19(1)(b) also says that freedom of speech is restricted by reasonable restrictions of public decency, order, and morality. So then it is for us, if we have been given this freedom, then you have to regulate it, and that has to come from within us. We have fundamental duties of being good citizens. So if we are not regulating ourselves, then the state will definitely step in.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Abha Singh, for joining us, as well as Vishal Kalra. Just to remind you what the Supreme Court had said at the time of the Bandit Queen. It had said that the scene was integral to the narrative. It was not obscene. The Supreme Court said that Bandit Queen tells a very powerful human story, and the scene of Phulan Devi's enforced naked portrayal is central to it. There can be no standard, a specific standard, which can be set as a blanket standard. Well, on that note, we are going to be slipping into a short break. Thank you so much for joining us. We join you in 2 minutes. Don't go anywhere.